The neck is like freaking 10 meters long. All right, so this is Longlac.
Take the next left onto Trans-Canada Highway, Ontario 11 East.
Another typical situation where if this was Russia, we would have a yield sign, not a stop sign.
Continue on Ontario 11 East for 209 kilometers.
I'm trying to get to Hearst. That's my next stop. 209 kilometers, 123 miles. So far so good. We're doing 72.9 liters per 100 kilometers. Which is, I don't know, 3.3 miles a gallon. So beautiful, you know? Like, I love this Cummins. Yeah, the sign on the right has a picture of a gas pump crossed and it says 211 kilometers, so no fuel. But we should be good. But I left this morning, I had like 85% of fuel, so now I just drove 2 hours from Nipigon to Longlac, and I'm already around, like, I don't know, 65, 70, maybe 70%. Just very expensive to run, you know, in winter on these roads. So I don't know, maybe on the way back I'll go through US. It's just over here it's crazy. But at least we don't have snow. I just saw a weather report when I was getting coffee at that ridiculous coffee shop there. And it says Toronto and Quebec are covered in snow. Now that coffee shop, I think it's called Ruby's. It's like super unfriendly towards customers. I don't know. First of all, big sign on the door says cash only, ATM inside. And of course, when you go to the ATM, it says Ruby's. So these guys refuse to take debit and credit cards, and they buy ATM and install it right there. Right? So now each time you take money, they make $2.50. Like, I hate when they do that, you know? Like, they don't want to pay fees, so they want me to pay ATM fees. And then the sign on the washroom door says customers only. And then when you go inside the men's washroom, there's another handwritten sign that says no washing the no face washing, no feet washing, no teeth brushing. Sink is for hand washing only. Like, I couldn't believe it. I wanted to take a picture and post it somewhere. I never saw a sign in the washroom that they don't want you to brush your teeth. That's like total crazy. So again, this is Longlac or Longlac, Ontario, on Highway 11. And you see these hills, like, it doesn't look like much, right? But when you have a super heavy load, it just doesn't want to pull, you know? Well, it's not exactly super heavy. It's just 80,000 pounds, right? And just to clarify, here in Ontario, I don't need the Jeep for this, and I don't need the Stinger. Like, this load, I could just done with my pusher axle and just hook up 4 axles in the back. But because I picked this up in Alberta, I had to use the Jeep and Stinger, right? And where would I leave them? But technically, yeah, if I had like a yard at the border with Manitoba, you know, I could have left all this stuff in there. And like but then of course you need a forklift, right? How do you unhook everything? And then, actually, wait a second, you don't need a forklift. You can unhook the Jeep. No, for the Stinger, right, you would need to take the spreader bar off and hook the axle back to the trailer. You know, you need some kind of equipment. And I was listening to my satellite radio works, even though like the cell phone signal is not very good here, but the satellite radio works. And I only have five buttons that I can pre-program, and the first 3 I did music, like total different flavors, just like opposite. Like one is my coffee house, you know, something what they play in at Starbucks, and then second one is heavy metal, like heavy rock, like real, you know, aggressive. And then number 3 is disco, dance music. And I just, depending on my mood, I either listen to heavy rock or disco or that light variety, coffee house. And then number 4, I programmed stand-up comedy. And there's about 5 channels, but they all close together. So I programmed the bottom one, and then I can just use the button up, and I can go to 4 more. There's always something happening there, like very nice, you know. Love comedy. And then number 5, so sorry, I don't have 5, I have 6 buttons. And my number 5 is old radio theater. Like they have these you know, radio plays from 40s and 50s, like very cool, you know, back when the radio was the only way of entertainment. There was no TV, right? And so they have a very cool detective stories, all kinds of, you know, thrillers. And then number 6 is news. Mine is tuned to CNN. So I'm driving and listening to coverage of the impeachment trial. Very cool. So this is the kind of like the best investment. I love this satellite radio. Such variety, you know. But of course, I only have 6 channels saved, but I think the total number is around, I forgot, 100, 150. It depends. I think in the US they give you more, but mine is XM Canada. But it works anywhere. It works in the States, works in Canada. And of course the best part, about satellite radio is that once you tune to a station, you can cross the whole country and you can still listen to the same station, right? Whereas with regular radio, you always lose one station, then you have to find a new one. Oh, Hearst, 200 kilometers. Mine says 199. Probably an old sign. So the cruise control is set at 93 kilometers an hour, which is, I think it's 58 miles per hour. But GPS says 92. I trust the GPS more, but basically, you see my RPM is 1350, 1350. So that's driving in top gear, 8 high, with 410 axle ratio, but large tires, 11R24.5. And I'm waiting for the tires to wear out on the drives, and then I think when it's time to replace them, I'll just go with low profile 24.5, which is what, 285 something. And 285 is actually, that's a bit wider than 11 inches, so you can get extra weight per tire in some states. But most importantly, because they are lower, that would drop my effective axle ratio from the current 391, even though it's 410. The differentials are 410, but the large rubber, the tall rubber, kind of like negates that. And so for me to get the real 410, I have to go to either 11R22.5s, which I cannot do because my wheels are 24.5, right? But these low profile rubber, 285, 24.5, it can be mounted on the same rubber, you know? And since now I'll be hauling much heavier loads, I hope, that's the plan. And plus I drive slow anyway, right? There's no gas mileage, no fuel mileage to worry about anyway. There's no fuel mileage, right? So I just need a bit more torque. And of course, that's what, multiplies your torque at the wheels is your axle ratio. That's why on a small engine like what I had on the Mac, I was not happy with 391. I had to change it to 410 because the truck only had 1860 torque, whereas this one has 2050. And then also in the plans is potentially I might get that what is it called, like bulldog, that little attachment you can hook up to your ECM, and it has a dial and it gives you like 5 or 6 positions, and you can add extra torque. And I saw them at a truck show at a nice discounted price. So maybe next time if I go to another truck show, I look out for these guys, this Bulldog company, and see if they have a version for my engine. But mine is Cummins X15 Performance, because they have another one called Economy, and that's why mine is kind of like bad on fuel, but it has high performance, Check out this. All these trees. I saw this in especially in Manitoba. Like the tree, I wanted to stop, but there's nowhere to stop, take a couple of pictures. The trees were all covered in this, frost. Kind of like what you see here. So, and I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I did. Remember I said there was an excavator. Somebody was trying to ship a 100,000 pound excavator from Ontario to Baltimore, but the rate was so cheap, and I argued with her. I said, you know, permits alone would be like almost half of your rate. No, that's all we got. And guess what? I was right, because that excavator has been sitting on the load board, I don't know, for 1 month. I wanted to do it when I was back home. She wouldn't budge. Would not pay more than, she says, this is my budget. And I said, okay, I'll do it if you prepay me on loading. No, we only do, you know, invoicing. I checked their credit. Their credit is bad, so my factoring company will not touch them. But now I see somebody else is posting that load, and now the rate is actually what I asked for. But I'm still like, I don't know, 800 miles away from my delivery, and I need to take a couple of days off because, you know, I've been driving, I've been doing a lot of miles, so I need to take some reset for my logbook and stuff like that. So I want to go back on the road maybe Monday. And today's what? Today's Monday, right? But I want to deliver Wednesday in Ontario and then go home for a couple of days. But I told them, I said, hey, I can load this and then go home and spend the weekend at home and then start trucking Monday. And this lady just replied me by email. She says, well, I negotiated this increase of the rate only for today. You know, and that's like I mentioned in that video, you know, 7 rules of Sergei Drachev for heavy haul. You're always either in the wrong place or you have the wrong trailer, right? In this case, I have the trailer. I could do it with a Jeep and Stinger because it is pretty heavy, right? 100,000. But I'm still under load, so I cannot do it. Even though finally they decided to increase the rate. Now, one thing that I'm thinking about as I'm driving is how short, you know, the days are. Yesterday I barely made it to Nipigon, and it was only 600 kilometers, like 360 miles. You know, that's all I could do within the, you know, available time during the day. And again, now it's already 2:27, like 12:30. I am back on the Eastern time, and the roads are up and down, left to right. You know, sometimes, you know, quite often I'm like shifting like crazy. So yeah, that's all we got. You see, like no freeway, just a 2-lane road. And so this will be like, it'll be like this all the way almost to what? To North Bay, Ontario. And then from North Bay, kind of like the last 4 hours to Toronto, that's a freeway. Most of it. I think they still have a couple of sections where it's like this. And especially here, there's lots of accidents happen in winter. People fall asleep. I see people driving towards me. They don't even move, you know, they stay in the middle, even though I have this oversized load. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And sometimes they start going into your lane, you know. I start honking, the guy wakes up or stop praying or something. I don't know what they do, but lots of inexperienced drivers over here. So this is seriously, like, no kidding, it's a dangerous road. Dangerous. And that's why in this, if you go through US, and why I did that going empty is because it's safer and the fuel is much cheaper, and the weather is usually nicer because it's more to the south, right? And here there's a lot of hills, and so, and that's another thing. So when you're driving here, your fuel economy is much worse if this was US. And so maybe my next load that I already booked, right? The same machine. Maybe I'll try going through US, I don't know. But I have fenders. I have plastic fenders. So, and they want you to carry chains, right? If you go through Montana. Actually, no, wait a second. I would go through Portal, right, where I crossed last time. I could just go through Manitoba, Saskatchewan. No, but imagine, right? So I would need 2 permits. Alberta and Saskatchewan, and then from Saskatchewan I can go into North Dakota. But then over there, so if I go through Canada, I kill the bird. Sorry, birdie. I guess you didn't see my big yellow load or something? Like, what's wrong with them? I think it was a sparrow. So yeah, if I go through Canada, there's only 3 permits that I need. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. No escorts. And I'm running in Ontario, the longest section. I'm under my annual permit, which I already paid for, right? So there's definitely the cheapest way in terms of permits. But if I go through US, I will still have to have Alberta and Saskatchewan. But then imagine, then I'm going south, so I need North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. So I need 6 permits extra. And I'm pretty sure some of them, because it's a pretty populated areas over there, I didn't check, but I'm pretty sure some of them will want me to have an escort because I'm 105 feet long. And so yeah, the days are short, and like I said, I only did 230 kilometers, and it's already 2:30 because the sunrise was at 8:30, and I had to go through that lake. Remember, I showed it last time. I said this is the most craziest place where the road goes like this, and I don't want to drive there at night for sure. I mean, when it's still dark, even though I have this 30 minutes before sunrise. And so I waited till it became really light and drove there at 80 kilometers an hour in 8 low because I was still waiting till my axles warm up. All right, 73 liters per 100 kilometers. Very nice. I'm telling you, every day I'm buying fuel. Every day. It's, you know, it's interaction. You talk to people. Whereas before, when I was doing step deck flatbed, you know, you're fueling up, what, I don't know, 2 times a week. You don't talk to anybody. It was boring. So now I'm interacting with people. We're cracking jokes, you know. I find that life is much more fulfilling now. When I was driving through Western Canada, I saw a couple of I saw a fox, and 2 times I saw a wolf, because it's all open area over there. You know, you're driving and you can see them from far away. I like wolves. You know, wolves, they're so careful. They will never just run in front of you like deer, you know, or moose. They're sitting there in bushes, they're waiting, and then when you're very far away, they just trot lazily across the road, you know, look at you, and very scary animal, you know. So I did a video similar to this one, right? I called it, what, Northern Ontario? I think I'll have to change the title on that one, because this one we'll just call Longlac, Ontario to Hearst, Ontario. But the first part was much worse. Over here you see it's pretty much straight road, but the part from Nipigon, it's a good thing I waited till daylight, you know. There's lots of hills, lots of turns. And this is Lydia Lake. We're passing Lydia Lake. Of course, you cannot see anything because everything is covered in ice and snow. Oh, and one thing I wanted to mention, I see all these local trucks, most of them, they're using winter fronts covers on the radiator. And the logic is it keeps your coolant, you know, warmer. The problem is that all the new trucks, they have sensors, right? And the coolant only goes through the radiator when your engine gets hot. Like I have on my previous truck, on the I think even on the Mac, this kind of weather, like now it's -8 Celsius. You guys can look it up online what it is, but it's somewhere around 15. No, maybe worse. Maybe somewhere around 10F, I think. And my coolant is normal. I look at my temperature. I have no issues with the temperature inside the cab. You know, it's warm. I am warm. I can drive in a t-shirt. The only thing I think it might help is it might help fuel economy maybe a little bit, but again, it's all controlled by the computer, by sensors, and Cummins and Kenworth on their website, if you look up online, they don't recommend these things. These are more like for old trucks, you know, that didn't have computers. And my truck, there was another question. My truck, because I always use anti-gel, which is not actually necessary if you fuel here somewhere in the north, because they all use additives, otherwise fuel would just gel up at the pump, right? So over here you don't have to use those anti-gels, but I buy them in bulk. I go to Canadian Tire over there in Cambridge and I buy 10 or 12, or I buy a whole case of those green bottles, and they're like $5.99 Canadian at the Mac, or any truck dealer sells them very cheap. And one bottle is 1 liter, so when I fuel up I put one in one tank, one in the other, so it's like you know, gallon is 3.78 liters, and that helps. But here you don't have to use it. And so I always use anti-gel, and in winter I use Shell Rotella T6 5W40, right? And my truck starts okay up to -20 Celsius. -20 Celsius, that's very cold. And once I started it at -28, which is -4F, but I could feel the engine was, you know, like struggling. And you don't want that because that's extra wear and tear, right, on the engine when it's super cold like that and it's like shaking. That's not good. But minus 20, no problems. And that's why I don't idle. Like, what's the point? And again, comments on Kenworth recommendation is because of the emissions equipment. They say idle as little as possible. The plan for today is to reach Cochrane, Ontario, but that one is 2 hours away from Hearst, and I still have 167 kilometers to Hearst, and time now is 20 to 1. I'm not sure I'll make it before dark to Cochrane. And as I mentioned, I think yesterday, that I'm trying to make arrangements with the JC trailer to send a mechanic with the tools tomorrow night, Tuesday or Wednesday morning, because I'll be near Barrie, Ontario, somewhere there, the rest area probably, and that's not too far from the factory, and I thought they would send somebody and mill down or, you know, polish that piece on the jack stand that interferes with air connectors. If I don't shift, the truck pulls all the way pretty much to 1100. Lots of torque. So even though I'm joking about the fuel economy, but that's what I need. I need this power for these loads. And so my empty weight now is 72,400 pounds. 72400. That's with the Jeep, the Stinger, and the total of 10 axles. Only 9 of which I can use in Western Canada because of the pusher has to be up. But the rest of Canada in the east and US, I can use all 10 axles, so I can do real heavy stuff, you know. My current weight is about 150,000 gross. And I definitely want to scale. I need to know my axle weights when it's time to go back to get the other one. Because the other machine is identical to this one. Nice looking Freightliner, you know. Call me weird, but I like the look of these Coronados. Freightliner Coronado. It looks pretty good, but one thing I don't like about them is that just like this truck, they only have a single air filter. And I would prefer, for my application for heavy loads, especially with these 10 axles, I would prefer to have, you know, outside air cleaners. because they say, I found an old article online, they say that when you have two filters like that, air filters, you get almost 4 times more air than with a single filter under the hood. And because those filters are outside, they give you cooler air, so you do lose a little bit of fuel economy, right, because they create air resistance, but it gives you more cooling, like it gives you better cooling, and gives you more power. So if I ever buy another truck, so that's what that truck will have. So it'll have a slightly longer wheelbase, 267 maximum, because that's what allowed in Western Canada and I want to go there. And dual air cleaners outside. And because now these exhaust pipes, it's a joke, right? Like one is a fake exhaust, so yeah, you're paying a lot of money for each pipe. So I would probably just go with the horizontal exhaust. I don't care. It's much cheaper, it's much lighter. But overall, you know, very peaceful over here. I like coming here, like occasionally, even though it can be, the weather can be bad, roads can be dangerous, but like I don't see this in Cambridge or Toronto. We don't have these forests, you know. This is like Siberia pretty much. Thing about a new truck, besides the slightly longer wheelbase, which is helpful with heavy weights, and so slightly longer wheelbase, 2 air cleaners, and the radiator. I forgot that, because this truck, they say, is not designed for gross weights over 200,000. And actually, I'm not gonna go over that, because even like best case scenario, 10 axles, right? You get 20,000 per axle. That's 200,000 gross. You know? So 200,000 minus my empty weight of 72. So that leaves the absolute maximum of 128. 128,000 pounds. But it's impossible to spread everything properly with the maximum weights, right? So, and that's why in my emails and stuff like that, and online I say maximum 125. So I can probably manage 125,000, but that would be like it. After that, you need more axles. To Hearst. So I think I'll be okay with reaching Cochrane before dark, because it's 2:30 now. Let's say I take a break, I need to send some paperwork to my customer, and let's say I leave at 3 and the sunset is at 5:15. I think I should be okay. Yeah, I need to reach Cochrane today so that I can deliver Wednesday. Here as well, but for some reason I never stop here. I always go to the Esso, $1.31. You see, already cheaper than at in Nipigon. To stop by Canadian Tire, but I don't have time now, but I want to stop and buy some ATF, automatic transmission fluid. I think it was, where did I? like these guys.
Directions on the left.
Looks like these guys had a lot of. Wow. What a train. This is a monster. All right, time out. 30 minutes, then we'll continue on and onward to Cochrane, and where I will shut down for the night. Thank you, boys and girls, for watching. Be safe, stay warm, unless you're in Florida.